This is going to be unlike anything I've ever built in the basement. It's pretty exciting. And it's big. Really big. Formbot reached out to ask me if I wanted to review this very weird printer. And let me be clear. When I say weird, I mean weird as in the best weird way possible. First, it's physically big. Second, it has up to 4 tool heads spread across 2 x-axes. Like, that's weird. Third, it is the most DIY of any DIY printing project I've ever worked on. It was literally designed by one person, Dr. Andrei Marinescu. I'm sorry if I mangled that. But anyhow, thank you to Dr. Dan for designing this thing and making it open source. Like, awesome. Thanks to Formbot for seeing like this cool thing and bringing it to market. Like, also awesome. Thank you for supporting like the DIY 3D printer community. And thanks to Formbot for sending out the kit to make this review possible. They reached out to me. No money's changing hands. They don't have any editorial insight or input. They sent me the kit and told me to make a video. So here we go. This is actually going to be the first of a series of videos because this is going to be a big build. In this episode, we're going to unbox and set up the frame. I'm also going to be talking a little bit just about DIY printers and who I think this thing might be for. Back to the unboxing. The machine is called the Xplorer, and I've spent the past few days kind of casually printing printed parts in the background while I wait for these 2 big boxes to get here. The way the thing is set up is it is ultimately going to be an IQEX or a 4 extruder printer, but the IDEX version with 2 extruders is what they had in the warehouses in the US, and the other 2 extruders and some miscellaneous parts to upgrade that from the IDEX to the IQEX are being shipped to me from China. So this unboxing is just the IDEX pieces that are available locally right now. And I did see some reports on Discord of people's panels arriving broken. I am happy to report that these so far all look great. Alright, I feel like this box came out upside down. At first glance, this appears to be like all the other Formbot Voron kits I've had. Whoa, that is a large bag. Well-labeled bags of hardware and pre-cut wiring, as well as a ton of Big Tree Tech printer electronics and Moon's motors. There are some pretty noticeable differences though. First, there's a lot of CNC machined parts for the motion system instead of relying on printed parts like the Voron project. Next, the extrusions. They are big beefy 30-30 extrusions, which I guess are necessary to support the weight of a giant bed and 4 tool heads zooming around. If you've built a Formbot kit before, you should feel right at home with this. The fit and finish of the kit is on par with all their other offerings. All right, just got this box in today from Formbot in China. I assume this is from Formbot. It's definitely from China. And when they sent me the printer, the 2 big boxes that got here first were the IDEX unit, or the printer set up in an IDEX configuration. And this supposedly is the IQEX upgrade to the 4 extruders. So let's just see what's in here. Okay. There's more wires. Yeah, more Orbiter smart sensors. Big Tree Tech Pico. EB36 cams. More hot ends. More tubing. Yeah, so this just looks like more rails, which I will need. Well, the big decision I've got to have right now is if I want to build initially as the 4-headed unit, or if I want to do the 2 and then show the upgrade. Yeah, it might make sense to just keep this boxed up, build the dual head, and then do another video showing the upgrade process. Or maybe I'll just rip everything out and do it the first time. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm going to look at the documentation and go figure that out. But yeah, this is pretty much what I expected. But yeah, well packaged. Mistake 1. Label parts. 1 big bag. Dumb. I believe I have the rails I need. I need the DIN 912 M3x12 screws, M3 T-nuts, 1 profile. A big bag of hardware. This is something that I learned from Modbot. This is actually Modbot's file. It's pretty slick. It's a little hardware organizer, and it is much easier to deal with than like a 50-pound Ziploc bag. And 13 nuts is 8 and 8. This little small part organizer tray was from Steve Builds. Good job, Steve. Apologies for the lack of riveting voiceover, but frame assembly is pretty straightforward and should be extremely familiar to anyone who's like put together. As far as my own build experience, my very first build was a 350 millimeter Voron 2.4 built with an LDO kit. After that, I built a 120 millimeter Voron 01 from a Formbot kit. Then I built a 300 millimeter Trident, again from a Formbot kit. And finally, I believe my last big build was a 180 millimeter Formbot Micron kit, which I've subsequently upgraded to the revised Micron Plus design. And just so this doesn't sound like a sponsored by Formbot video, I should clarify that those 3 Formbot kits were all kits that I bought with my own money. I also grabbed a box turtle kit from Formbot. At the time, it was pretty good value, going probably about $100 cheaper than another kit. Also, that's not to knock the other guys. It's pretty cool, especially if you buy their products through authorized resellers, because you can get them domestically. Speaking of box turtle, box turtle was interesting. I bought a Formbot box turtle kit, and I was gonna make a video because there's some stuff about it that was really, really cool. You know, initially I had some questions like why. Like, I get that it's, you know, it's not a Voron project, but it was so close and so adjacent that there were times where they zigged or zagged, and I'm like, well, why didn't you, like printing the parts, it's like, why didn't you just print them to Voron specs instead of close but not? But their documentation, like Voron's documentation, is top notch. But the way they built their interactive documentation, where you could like, click through and like, oh, fucking killer. But I got the thing built, and I'll say this, it was easier to build and configure the software than the Enraged Rabbit kit feeder. So that's not a super high bar. But tuning that, or excuse me, tuning that thing was so tricky that I went and rage bought a bamboo at Micro Center, like that the P2S had just come out, and like release date, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy one. Like, I just want to see what a functional AMS is like compared to the Box Turtle. And I watched it, and this is probably after a month of completing the Box Turtle build, and then just like fighting with tension. Like, I would have issues where it would either like not grip the filament or grip it too tight. Like, it felt like it was like a very delicate balance had to find, like, for each lane and for each fit, like, to get this, the stuff to work through the filament path correctly. And finally, like, just how does bamboo do it? And the answer is, well. So, like, I immediately just put the Box Turtle on Facebook Marketplace. And, like, honestly, it kind of made me question DIY printers in general. Like, I like this part of, I like this. It's a fun hobby. But, after you get the thing built, like, it'd just be nice if shit worked. And the bamboo, like, especially like the AMS, it just works. And I suppose that, a Chinese factory started by a bunch of ex-DJI people, probably manufactures things to a better tolerance than my basement. But yeah, seeing the bamboo just kind of do its thing was pretty eye-opening. The frame assembly was pretty straightforward and aided by instructions that were crystal clear. The only tricky part really was making sure you're grabbing the right lengths of extrusion and linear rail. But basically, it just needed to make sure the rails were greased up and then affix them to the right extrusion. And you kind of build each side one by one. And that's about the limit I could do at this workbench before I had to head over to the big table. I mean, from here on out, it's basically you make two H-shaped sides and then just square it up and, tighten the hardware to build a box. I'm, again, not going to give you very colorful commentary on the frame building, and instead talk about what I'm most excited about this project. And that's looking at where this fits in the bigger scheme of things. And that's, not just where does this fit alongside like my Voron collection, but those two printers behind me. Specifically the Bamboo P2S with its AMS, and next to it I've got a Snapmaker U1 with the tool changer. Everybody says we're in the era of the tool changer now. And, maybe, but, one size does not fit all. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to what you're doing. I can tell right now, this is probably not my first printer. This is not, I think for the average new hobbyist, I have a feeling I know exactly who this printer is going to be for, but I should probably get the thing built and see it in action first before I give away my thoughts on that. Anyhow, in the next video, we're going to be building the motion system, and that's where I think it gets a little more interesting and definitely starts to veer away from the familiarity we've had in the Voron space. There are no printed parts in the motion system. It all uses the CNC milled pieces, and yeah, it's got 2 or 4 heads. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be cool. While I'm thinking about Voron conventions, though, and again, sorry if I keep talking about Voron, but I just don't see how any in-depth review or take on this machine can talk about it or not. I mean, if you look at Formbot, the rest of their website is all generally pretty heavily Voron based. So I think most of the people looking at this machine are going to be coming from that universe, or at least familiar with that universe. And one of the big differences to me was the documentation. Like, there's definitely a visual language and a writing style that's very inclusive and welcoming and beginner friendly on the Voron side. And this documentation is decent, but it lacks that accessibility. That would be one bit of feedback. And again, I think if your team is one guy, that's a bit different than, however big the Voron design team is and all the people that volunteer on their Discord. So I'm not trying to throw shade there. Just, I think the Voron documentation has a leg up. And that extends to stuff like the printed parts. One of the things I really love about the Voron project is all of the parts are oriented and ready to print and don't require supports. And that's definitely not the case with this. And there were a couple pieces I had to print over and over a few times because I just assumed they printed without supports, or I just assumed that they were in the right orientation, and that wasn't the case. And yeah, there were definitely several pieces that I had to go finagle with a bit. And, that made me really kind of appreciate the work that the Voron community does on that stuff. Because when it's not there, you'll notice. I did. One more slight little difference to note. You're going to need bigger tools. The metric hardware, it doesn't just use M3 and M5s, it uses M6 and M8 screws with the bigger extrusions. So just another little thing to be prepared for if you're coming from the Voron side. So that about wraps up the unboxing and frame build section of this. It was a good couple of nights and a really solid kit from Formbot. I'm really looking forward to getting the motion system in place and working on the next chapter of this. I hope you will follow along. I will probably try to get through the motion system next, and then I will do electronics and then software and testing. So, yeah, let's do this thing. Let's build a Formbot Xplorer. Thanks a lot.